Hello, Facebook world. My name is Kara Canuck, and I am the co-owner of Des Moines Mom. And today we are here. We are back doing Mental Health Mondays. And so one of the things that is super important to us is making sure that we have an open dialogue about mental health and some of the topics that we see both as women and as moms and things that we want to address in our families and our own personal life. So I have the pleasure of speaking today with Kate Simmons, and she is a mental health therapist at Blank Children's Star Center. Blank Children's Star Center, that is a fairly new location. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a brand new building.
Okay. And it's in West Des Moines, 4055 West Town Parkway.
Yep. Yep.
And tell me a little bit about yourself, Kate, and the types of things that you do there.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. At the Star Center here, we have kind of multiple different areas. I work on the Child Advocacy Center side of things. So when children come in for their forensic interview, they're either brought in here by DHS or law enforcement. They do their interviews here, and then they meet with me. I do a mental health check-in. I do a suicide assessment, make sure that they're doing okay in order to go home. They also meet with our medical staff here in case they need a SANE exam or any kind of checkup they can do here. We have the foster side, the foster clinic that can do that, meet with them medically and with ongoing therapy. And then we also have the developmental clinic here as well.
Okay. You guys offer a wide variety of services that are important to lots of different people. So one of the things that we are highlighting today is the fact that September is Suicide Awareness Month. And so Kate and I are going to talk a little bit about the different risk factors and warning signs and things to kind of just have in the back of your mind and always to be cognizant. So just hopping in straight to the topic, Kate, can you tell me what are some of the risk factors as far as suicide and in your child or your adolescent?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to recognize anytime your kiddo their mood changes, their behavior changes. There can be risk factors in their school like bullies. It could be a loss of a friend or a loved one. It can be just any sort of sudden change in their environment. And that happens a lot. So you really want to pay attention to your kiddo. Make sure that you're aware of any mood changes, behavioral changes, and we can go into detail if you like in specifics, but just really being mindful of what's going on in their world.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about like mood changes, what sorts of moods or behaviors do you see that you should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, especially with teens, sometimes they isolate a lot. They get very irritable.
Mhm.
Sometimes they just withdraw from everything. They have a loss of interest in things that they typically would enjoy doing.
Mhm.
If you see any of those signs, if you see them giving away some of their prized possessions, because sometimes they can be really low for a long time and just have that sudden change and be like, oh, everything is amazing, it's great. And that would be very concerning too, if you see that and you don't know what's helping them flip over to that sudden change.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, that's definitely, you mentioned that like, those are some of the things that you look for in your teenagers. Do you have, specific things that you would look for in children that were maybe a little bit younger than that too?
Yeah. So in tweens as well, you'll see those same things with them. I'm noticing too, a lot of kiddos are posting things online. So just being aware of their social media. Um, Before, I think kids would talk to their friends, maybe talk to their parents, tell them that some of the things that they're going through. But now I'm seeing that they're posting a lot. They're posting on Snapchat, Instagram, even on TikTok and places. So being aware of having all of their accounts and sitting down with them and saying, hey, can we look through some of these things together?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. You think about social media and it being one of those outlets for kids to really express themselves and, post the things that they might not talk about openly with a parent or a friend.
Yeah. And it's kind of a double-edged sword because a lot of kids are using that social media for a distraction to help get their mind off things. And it's also increasing their depression and anxiety because they're just seeing the highlight reels of everybody else's lives and it's putting them in a low spot.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that that is a tip that you have to think about as an adult too, that social media can be a wonderful thing, but it also, you need to keep in mind that, yeah, it is somebody's highlight reel and it is all of those happy, shiny moments that people are sharing. And so, right, double-edged sword, absolutely, Kate. Um, One of the things that I also wanted to ask about, what are the best ways to talk about, your child's mental health and talk about it in a way that is approachable and that they feel comfortable, talking to you about, some of these issues that they're going through, or maybe some of these suicidal feelings that they're feeling.
Yeah. And that's a great question. And I'm a parent as well. I have a high schooler and a middle schooler, so I feel like I'm in the thick of all of this.
Yes.
But I think that the best thing and the first thing that we should do as parents is to model that, to model our behaviors and teach them about healthy mental health by saying how we feel, letting them know that it's okay to say how you feel. We really need to model and teach healthy and appropriate coping skills. And we need to practice them with them. And so then once we show that it's okay to say, I'm feeling really sad today, or I'm just kind of having an off day. I think I'm going to go for a walk and then I might bake something, write it down. When we show that it's okay to talk about it and cope with it, then our kids are going to feel like it's okay. Then we can have that conversation with them. But I think it's so important to do those check-ins with your kids often and consistent. I try to spend 10 minutes a day with each of my kiddos, one-on-one in the morning, one-on-one at night. Sometimes it doesn't always happen, but just to have that like solo time with them, to be able to say, hey, how are you doing today? A lot of times kiddos will be like, good, okay, fine. And they want to close that door, but help them give language into identifying how they're feeling. Was it a hard day? Validate them, support them, reflect their feelings back so that they know that you care. From my experience, both professionally and personally, a lot of times kiddos don't want you to solve their problems. They just want you to listen. They want to be able to say, this is a safe place for me to tell you that I'm not doing okay, or that it was a really hard day, and just sit with them and hold that with them for a while.
Mhm. Do you have suggestions on ways, like opportunities and ways to connect with your child that creates that sense of bond that they feel, that they can verbalize some of these feelings?
Yeah. As parents, you just have to have confidence that you really know your kiddo. And so you know what they like. And maybe they do like baking, or they like to shoot hoops, or maybe going for a walk. And maybe it's just, taking that time alone with them and giving them that space to say things aren't okay or things are great. You wanted them to be able to tell you everything that's going on. Things are going really well. You want to hear that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I
Good and
think that
bad.
I think that as if you make it consistent to check in with your kiddo, you can start having those deeper conversations. It won't be so on the surface.
Mhm. No, that makes sense. Do you have any tips, as somebody, maybe there's a parent out there that's like, yeah, those are really good suggestions. And I have this older, child and I haven't done these things. Do you have like one piece of advice that you'd say like, okay, like you can do this. You can still, it's not too late. You still have the opportunity to connect with them.
Yeah, I love family meals. I love, dinners together. If dinners are really busy, then have breakfast. Have a really big breakfast together. Whatever works for you and your family. I'm going to show you a few things
Yeah.
like this. If anybody asks you or
Okay.
asks me, these 1,000 questions. I've even found books like this at Target.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of fun to sit at the table and just pop it open and be like, hey, here's the question, and pass it around and get to know your kids more. I find out new and interesting things about my own kids all the time. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't know you thought that way. That was, that's very clever. That's really interesting. To help open up the door so that they can share their insight about everything. For littler kids, I love books like, this is one of my favorites. I'm happy, sad, and just teaching them all about their emotions. If they can't name it, then it usually comes out as a behavior. Um, and happy sad is so fun because it really, you can combine your different emotions. So we've all heard of hangry when you're hungry and you're angry.
Yep.
But you can be like, wow, I was really mad today, or and just say, what kind of emotions can you make up, and then smashing them together. That's a really good book. Teaching your kiddos, to listen to your body. This is one of my favorite books. It teaches them their emotions and how our body tells us that we're feeling those emotions. That's
No, those are great tool books for parents and kids alike.
Yeah, and I've got one more. I love this coping skills for this one is for kids. This is probably for younger kids and tweens, but we really need to teach our kids how to cope with things. A lot of times we're just like, we want to send them to their rooms and be like, figure it out. But that's usually when they're starting to have these really heavy thoughts and a lot of negative self-talk comes around. So we want to give them some tools so that they can manage these emotions. And that starts with us co-regulating with them. We have to stay calm. We have to teach them how to cope, and we have to do it with them so that they can learn that skill.
No, I am like looking at all of the books that you just mentioned. I'm like, yeah, I probably should buy all of those and have all of that on hand. I love the idea of being able to create these opportunities for conversation, that you set kind of this baseline check-in with them. That way, when they are experiencing those bigger and heavier emotions, that maybe because you've already started these conversations, that you've created this safe space for them to come and to talk to you about them in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And to circle back around to how we started the conversation, talking about suicide and looking at those warning signs, um, you really want to have that direct conversation. So if you have all that practice of being able, like you said, to open that door, have those deeper conversations, it's going to be easier if you have to have those harder conversations. So I always suggest that if you see some of those warning signs, to ask your kiddo directly, have you been thinking about suicide? Have you thought about hurting yourself?
Mhm.
And if they have, then you can have that bigger conversation of, I care about you. I'm here to support you. You want to find out if they've ever had a plan. You want to do safety precautions that will help remove some of those things that might get them to their plan. For example, if they've thought about overdosing, you want to make sure that you lock up all of the medications, both prescription and non-prescription. Make sure they have access to none of that, only you. If they've thought about cutting themselves, you want to lock up all of your sharps. So things like razor blades, box cutters, sharp knives, sharp scissors, things of that nature. So really having that, trusting them that they can have that conversation with you, and trusting yourself that you can have that conversation with them.
Mhm. Okay, so say, you've had this conversation and you've taken these proactive kind of preventative steps when your child tells you they've had suicidal thoughts, and these are, maybe some of the ways that they've thought about ending their life. What what are the next steps that you do after that? How, what should a parent do as far as, contacting a mental health provider and, perhaps trying to seek treatment for their child or teenager?
Yeah, absolutely. If they are actively suicidal, if they are in a space that they really are thinking about hurting themselves, they want everything to end, they're feeling pretty hopeless, you want to get them to an emergency room or urgent care. So do that first and foremost.
Mhm.
If they tell you that they've had thoughts, but they are feeling safe right now, you want to ask them if they've ever had a plan. And if they have, you want to ensure those safety precautions are put in place so that they don't have access to that plan.
Mhm.
You want to get them into mental health therapy, individual and family, as soon as possible. Um, and you want to just kind of talk through them, and not like robotically, like, what's your plan, all this stuff, like that. You just want to sit there and let them know that you care. I'm here to support you. I'm here, whatever you need. What do you need more of? What do you need less of? Just trying to help see how you can show you're there the whole way with them.
Mhm. I know through conversations that I've had with other mental health therapists, as well as parents who have gone through some of these things, that there is a really startling and alarming shortage of like beds and things and facilities available for kids. Is that something that you are seeing too on your side of, being a mental health therapist?
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I do see that quite a bit. I see a lot of families that have to wait in the ER for a while and for a bed to open up. Um, yeah, unfortunately, that that's a thing. However, have you ever heard of mobile crisis?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, so mobile crisis is a really good option to do as well. There's one in Polk County, that's through Broadlands, and then there's one that in 18 counties surrounding Polk County that's through Irely Ball. And so they pick up the phone 24/7, 365, holidays, everything included, and they will get someone out to your house. It doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock in the morning or noon. So they will have someone come out, do like a risk and safety assessment, help you, help your kiddo out, sit with you. They can even go to the hospital with you if needed, but they're always available as well, along with the suicide hotline, the text line, 911,
Mhm.
all of those.
Okay. Well, Kate, thank you so much for your wisdom and for your words and just for the things that we, need to be thinking about if we have somebody in our life who is feeling suicidal, but also your, proactive suggestions as to how we can open conversations up with our kids. I think, all of that stuff is really important and that it's all something that we can do a better job about starting with our families at home right now.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for your time today, Kate. We appreciate, the services that you're offering to families here in Des Moines, and we appreciate just the open door and being able to talk about some of these mental health issues too.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Thank you.